Today, on Rise Up, believers in Thailand have been working hard to spread the call of the riser. Join the discussion. Next, the Mahdi's Manifesto. What do we learn from the writing of the riser regarding the community of God? And finally, I found the Mahdi. We are joined by Brother Zong Al-Mahdi and discuss his journey towards the Imam of the time and his pledge of allegiance to God. This is Rise Up.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rise Up. I'm Alia Halal.
I'm Kevin Omar Al-Mahdi.
Thank you for joining us today, Kevin.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we are going to be talking about quite a few things today. We are going to start off with a bit of an introduction into who we are and what it is that we're doing here on this show. We are the companions and the missionaries of the riser or the Qaim of the family of Muhammad, Abdullah Hashim Aba Al-Sadiq. Now, who is that individual? He is the one that is basically mentioned in the will of Prophet Muhammad as the man that God has appointed for this day and age. He's the vicegerent of God. He's the one that the world has been waiting for. He is called the Qaim. He is one of the Mahdis from the will of Prophet Muhammad, and therefore he's also a Mahdi. And he's actually that savior figure that the world has been waiting for, who's supposed to be bringing us to salvation and teaching us how to be that human family that we're meant to be. And the effect and impact of his teachings has really gone across the globe. People from different parts of the world, people from different cultures are hearing about this call, they're embracing the call, and they are rushing towards it. And it's very fascinating because you realize that there's a real need for salvation, not just in one or two cultures, but all across the world. People are in need of that guidance and that salvation. So when they see and hear the teachings of the riser Aba Al-Sadiq, they have to respond in some shape or form, and it's an extremely beautiful phenomenon that we're witnessing right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think every single culture, because we are a religion and a call that is unifying the divine religions of the past. So we are here, yes, Aba Al-Sadiq, from whom is peace, he is the divinely appointed successor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa ali. But if you are watching us for the first time, you shouldn't be thinking of us just as like something that is only focused on Islam or Christianity and Judaism, for that matter. We are a call, and we are a people who believe that God sent messengers through all the different places of the world, and that many religions that you see today, like Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, Taoism, actually come from the same source. They come from the same God, and their founders, Krishna, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Zoroaster, they were actually prophets of God, just like the prophets that you read in the Bible and the Quran. They were just sent to a different place with a different way of speaking. Prophet Muhammad said the prophets were commanded to talk to the people according to their level of understanding and according to their minds. So the message of God is the same, but it came to a different people, to people who thought different things. So it's not that it's a different message, it's just that it was delivered in a different way, in a different style. So basically, now that we are witnessing how the call is spreading in these different places of the world, we see how in different parts of the world, because of the dominant religion becomes the dominant culture, the reactions that people get towards us are different. And one of the things that I really love about this dawah is how enriching these interchanges and these conversations that we're having with a lot of people are actually are, because through this we also are learning about the heritage of the prophets and the messengers from the parts of the world that we didn't get to experience.
Yes, because everyone's experience through their culture, through their religion is actually a valid experience. It's a valid human life that they've been living, and they've received some shape or form of guidance through their religion, even if it has in it some corruption or some incomplete religion in some shape or form. So now we've got different parts of the world who are following their different vicegerents, the different prophets and messengers, and You've got here now the Qaim of the family of Muhammad saying, yes, your prophet was indeed sent by God and we actually accept him. Why? Because in the Holy Quran it's quite clear that we are meant to say that. We are meant to say we accept all the true prophets and messengers who were sent for the guidance of mankind. So it's very fascinating and it's so refreshing. In fact, it is for those out there who are familiar with the narrations of the end times or the narrations of the appearance of the Mahdi, it is a very clear sign of who the Qaim of the family of Muhammad will be, that he will actually appear and say to the people that these are the unknown prophets, because there are so many who were not known. So the ones who are not known, when you start finding out who they were, and you know that they are names familiar to you, but you were never explicitly taught that they are prophets, like Lao Tzu or Confucius or Socrates. You know those names, but you don't know that they're prophets. You wouldn't categorize them with Abraham or Moses or Noah, but in fact they are from that same lineage and from that same source. And that source is a never-ending source. And that's the other thing about the Ahmadi religion of peace and light and the true authentic religion of God. From the beginning of time till now, it's that the source itself doesn't leave. The spirit itself will not just walk away and retire after giving the message of one covenant and now it's over. That Spirit of God will constantly be a presence, an active presence in our midst in some way that maybe we understand or we don't understand, maybe we know about him or we don't. But those who are sincere will find the person with the Spirit in them, wherever they might be in the world and whoever they might be, whatever they might have done in their lives. And we've seen that, we've watched that happen. And that's the fascinating thing. And also it shows us, right, that there was a time for which this was meant to happen. And we're living in an age where it's possible now.
Exactly.
Right? There are communication media that are actually making that a possibility.
And there's a lot of also open-minded people now that because of this expansion of telecommunications. I was reading the other day, by the way, like just as a side note, a science fiction tale about basically a robot after imagine in the apocalypse happens, and then there is this robot that is just going from town to town to town collecting stories.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it made me realize that of course, if nowadays if the internet dies, the only way in which we can have people. In which we can know what happened in the next town is by somebody physically going there, getting the information and traveling, traveling back, and these people were the internet back then. So, first of all, in the old times, having people who appeared in different parts of the world and taught to the people the same things, one in China, and another one like 600 years later appears in I don't know, India or different parts of the world, Greece, all these places, because the prophets, according to the Quran, they were sent to all nations, right?
Course, yes.
So basically, just the mere fact that people appear carrying the same message is like a sign that they are connected to a kind of massive cosmic internet that they are gathering this information from.
Cosmic internet, that's good.
So, on the other hand, one of the proofs that somebody is from God is the fact that they have divine knowledge. So, if you see these people like Buddha, like Krishna, like Lao Tzu, or like all these prophets and messengers that have come across the time, you see that they have taught people lessons that are so important and so true that even thousands of years after they have been pronounced, this knowledge still shapes the culture of these peoples. So it is like the knowledge that Jesus came and taught 2,000 years ago. It's still part of the culture. Maybe it's not being practiced today as it was practiced back in the day, but the idea that a person called Jesus came and that he taught certain lessons, it's still there, and you can still find that the people think that these lessons that he taught are important. They still preserve the books. Everybody has one of these books in their house where it preserves the teachings of Jesus. And it is exactly the same thing that happens for Buddhist people and for Hindu people and for people from different parts of the world with different religions. They have received messengers that came and taught a message that is very similar to the message of Jesus, very similar to the basic message of Moses and all the prophets and the messengers. And they also have preserved their teachings because they still think that today in 2025, it's still relevant. You can still gather lessons from them, even though the world is a different world. You can still go to them and learn from them something that will be valuable for you today. So knowledge is something that, like truth by definition, is something that can last for the test of time. So the mere fact that these religions have knowledge that has lasted for so long, when there is philosophies, for example, that come and go, political and philosophical trends that just somebody comes, he gives you something, and then over the time they are forgotten. They are found to be false. For example, over time, scientific researches and scientific truths that people held valuable for centuries. Somebody comes and says, actually, it was false. We were mistaken.
Yeah, they debunk it.
But you still have the philosophies and the knowledge of the prophets and the messengers still. For example, things that Buddha said, things that
Jesus, Krishna, Socrates, Aristotle,
Muhammad said.
Exactly.
Today, scientific research is actually proving that many of these things that look like mystical knowledge, they have a basis on reality that is discoverable by modern science, for example. And this in itself is an extremely strange thing, that somebody can teach you something and thousands of years in the future, it can be proven by other means to be true. This is something that is special. This is something that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah,
and
it's
if
something valid.
Yeah, and if you believe in Muhammad by his knowledge, then you cannot reject Buddha and you cannot reject, Aristotle.
Because they're all saying the same thing in some way.
Yes.
Like they're all connected in some shape or form, and they're all kind of they're giving that same message, but it is always relative to the people that they're giving it to and the time period that they're in.
Exactly.
And that's why it's also very odd when people point out different things in different religions or teachings and books, and they say, well, they used to say that, that's not good. Bill, your understanding of ethics and morality has developed through time. And each time a prophet or messenger would come, they would speak to the people and elevate them a little further, making them capable enough to come to that point where they could now, in the time we're in at the moment, which is the greatest of all times, when it's said that these great souls would return once again at the same time to basically preserve and establish the proof and the truth for which they had come before. And that the time is now good for it because so much effort has been done before.
Yes.
The building blocks have been put into place.
Exactly.
The foundation has been set. So there was never going to be a time before where everything was set in stone and it's complete and it's the full picture. Now is the time.
It's an amazing thing.
Exactly.
You made me think of the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch starts by saying, and I know that I'm not writing this book for this generation, but I'm writing it for a new generation that is going to come in the future. It's an amazing thing because you can see, you can feel in this sense, if you think about all the prophets and the messengers, they all gave us messages that were not for their time. They were just waiting for the end times to come, because
they were planting seeds
it's like
for the future.
It's as if they knew that in the end times there would be a technology, like Prophet Muhammad said, there's going to be something that will allow a person to speak in the West and be heard in the East. They knew that there was going to be a certain point of time where humanity would be so interconnected that people from different religions and different parts of the world would start to be able to see the patterns.
That's so
because
true.
before it was very difficult. You could have, for example, a book, but it was extremely expensive to have ink, to have paper, to have
and
all
have copies of a book at all.
Exactly. So nowadays we are in a moment where sharing a book is free, and immediately it becomes available worldwide, you know,
and it's light and you can carry it anywhere.
Exactly. It doesn't even weigh anything, because you can carry it on your phone, for example, so it's no extra weight. So now it allows for humanity to start to see the patterns, and this is why there is a shift in consciousness in people, in which they are seeing, yes, actually it is very similar what they're saying, and you see these movements popping out where people are just trying to find answers, because they see that there is something underneath, like at the foundation of every single religion, that is present always there. And
that eternal truth.
Yes, and we are telling you that the man who will truly make sense of all these things, all these patterns that people are noticing, there is a man that has connected all the dots and is still doing it, and is showing you a panoramic view that's going to change your life forever, because it's just so complete and so true that you can feel how it is actually. We can have this conversation of seeing how the parents are connecting, because he's enabling us to do it, and he's showing it so clearly. And anyone who's read The Goal of the Wise, anyone who's seen the lecture series of the Riser Aba Al-Sadiq on the Mahdi Has Appeared YouTube channel, or on this very channel, this satellite channel, we have 2 satellite channels, and they both have those lectures being aired on a constant, regular basis. If you have seen his content and his works, if you've heard his voice, if you've listened to what he has to say, then you will understand why it is that there are so many people resonating with it, finding peace with it. They're finding this relief. There are so many times, and I'm sure you can vouch for the same thing on the Spanish side of the world, because you are in that Spanish outreach team. But on the English outreach team, we get this phenomenon very, very often, where people will just call us, or we'll call them, and they send in a phone number, and their response or reaction on the phone is always relief. They are so relieved. They're like, oh my goodness, I watched Aba Al-Sadiq's videos. Oh my gosh, I read The Goal of the Wise. And they always say, they have this, whether they're pledging allegiance immediately or they want to wait a bit, they always say, I've never heard anything like that, and everything has changed for me, and I'm so happy I found this. This is what I was looking for. And it's fascinating too, because if you look at the time of Nimrod, if you look at the time of Abraham, if you look at the whole story of the whole idea of the languages getting split as a punishment, this in itself is so symbolic. Now think about that. Imagine that we as a people used to be this tight-knit human family that began to have issues and hostility because of the lineage of Cain opposing the bloodline of Adam. And this horrible war that broke through and started creating this divide, and murder became rampant, and people started to hate one another. And slowly and surely this gap started getting created. God was angered by the fact that people were no longer wanting to be connected and being a family, and he was offended by that, and therefore this fell upon mankind, that there was division, there was a lack of understanding, there was a huge separation between people, because not being connected is the worst punishment possible for human beings. And human beings were trying to be connected in disobedience. Right? So God didn't allow that, and you made me realize it is a big punishment. The fact that we are not able to communicate properly with the people, it's a massive, because imagine before the internet, when people had to travel in order to get information, there is a limit. There is a boundary that you cannot cross.
It's your human limit that stops you. It's not because technology isn't there to help you.
If you don't know the language, that's it. You're banned from that culture. You're banned. So it is extremely. It is an extreme shift what we're seeing right now,
and it's
with the
blessing.
internet. And all these technologies that allow us now to translate immediately whatever other people are saying in different languages. It's like God is lifting the.
God's enabling us to go forward now. He's saying, okay, guys, now that you want to change something, and there is within your midst a man who is willing
Yes.
to give everything for that cause,
Yes.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And because of the dedication of Aba Sadiq, because of the dedication of those who want to follow in his footsteps,
Wow.
and the growing number of people who want to reflect that light, we're seeing a shift in the world. And it is very obvious, it's very true for anyone who wants to look at it. See what's happening. Go into our content for yourselves, see what's being said, and watch the responses of the world around us and see why are people responding in this way
Yes.
to Aba Sadiq. And speaking of a response to the teachings of the riser Aba Sadiq, we wanted to talk about some news that took place in Thailand, and it's actually a very amazing act of support and service that the Ansar in Thailand did, and we should definitely talk about it. Let's go ahead, let's put it on the screen and read it together. It came out in Divine Just State magazine. AROPL members, or Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light members, spread the faith in Thailand and face questions. So as you can see in the picture, there's all these t-shirts right in front of us with Aba Sadiq's face, and they're basically promoting the idea that they are Ansar and that there's a religion that people can talk about. They've got these tables set up. It looks really nice and very well organized.
Yeah, Thailand is a majority Buddhist country, so for them it is not like in the Middle East where they know what they are talking about. These brothers and sisters, they are presenting something that most of the people are not familiar with. So let's go to the next picture and see. Okay, so the article reads, in the early hours of February 8th, a group of 15 believers gathered in the bustling Yangyong second-hand market in Hat Yai, a city in Thailand's Songkhla province. Their purpose was clear: to spread the message of their faith and call people to the teachings of Aba Sadiq Abdullah Hashem, whom they believe to be the riser from the family of Muhammad. The group, followers of the Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light, rented a small space in the market and set up a booth adorned with banners featuring their spiritual leaders, including Imam Ahmed al-Hassan and the awaited Imam al-Mahdi, whom they claim appeared on January 23, 2015. Armed with flyers, books, and bottles of cold water, they sought to engage passers-by in conversation, offering literature and invitations to learn more about their beliefs. And we can see there is a video that you can play in the Divine Just State website. So if you're interested in going and watching the actual interactions that the brothers and the sisters had that day, you can go to divinejuststate.com and you will be able to play these videos. Let's show the next slide. Despite the market's usual liveliness, the group's presence stood out. Most of the believers wore matching shirts bearing messages about their faith and the 10th anniversary of Imam al-Mahdi's appearance. Their setup included 35 copies of the Mahdi's Manifesto, which they distributed alongside informational pamphlets about their movement. The response from market goers was mixed. Some accepted the materials and engaged in conversation, while others kept their distance. It seems people are a bit afraid and don't even want to take our free water bottles, noted Jutana Medting, one of the believers, during a live stream on Facebook and TikTok. They see us as something strange and unfamiliar. For the believers, this reaction was not entirely unexpected. Many in their group saw it as a reflection of a well-known saying attributed to Prophet Muhammad: Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange, so glad tidings to the strangers. The Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light has faced opposition in various parts of the world. Its adherents believe that their leaders, including Aba Sadiq Abdullah Hashem, are divinely appointed figures guiding humanity towards truth. In predominantly Buddhist Thailand, where Islam itself is a minority religion, their message is particularly controversial. The event lasted nearly 3 hours, with believers maintaining their outreach efforts despite mixed reactions. Their initiative was more than just about handing out literature. It was in their eyes a test of faith. And we did not send before you, O Muhammad, any of the messengers except that they ate food and walked in the markets. The 15 participants range in age from 22 to 74, demonstrating a cross-generational commitment to their cause. Among them was Fatima Kansivian, 53, one of the few women involved and the eldest member, Daraish 74. Though the event was small in scale, the believers left feeling encouraged. We are proud to do this for the riser, one participant remarked. For them, the mission continues, no matter how strange it may seem to others.
And that's the last line there is extremely poignant and apt, and a very good reflection of how we are as believers. We know very well that what is true will always seem strange at the beginning of how it starts. I mean, imagine being in the time of Jesus Christ. In his time period, for the people to suddenly leave behind what they were doing and start walking behind this man who was just living a life saying he is the Messiah. That was his thing. And everyone who was watching and listening, they also had normal lives. So when you look back in the past, in history, there's this assumption that that was how it was back then. But it wasn't. It was just like it is now. There were tax collectors, there were fishermen, there were shepherds, and they're watching Jesus Christ and they're being told by him, leave what you're doing and just follow me. And they had to leave what they were doing and follow him if they had faith in God. So this was a big test on the people. And it would be the same as it is exactly right now. But people don't see it like that. They think, well, that was in the time of Jesus. No, it's the same thing as it was then, which is happening right now, where we've got the man from God saying, leave what you know and come and support God in this very critical time where God is saying support is needed. And people say, well, I'm a teacher, or I have a family, or I have a career opportunity, or I have to study. And they have reasons for why it's not the time yet for them to support God. But when God is calling you, do you tell him to wait? That's the question. And the believers in Thailand have shown a very remarkable stance there, where they collected, they united, they got together their efforts, they put into the job every bit of effort that they could, and they were, because of their united front, they were successful in reaching out to so many people. This event was live streamed on Facebook and on TikTok, and it was a very effective way of spreading the call. And it showed the humanity first approach as well, because that is what this call is about. It's about spreading the word through peace and through humanity.
Yes, and I think it's, first of all, it's a very good idea to rent a space in a market and talk about the dawah. I think that's a very nice idea.
It really is.
Yes. On the other hand, the fact that they were wearing the t-shirts.
Oh yeah, that was cool. Very nice.
That was amazing.
Very nice t-shirts, actually.
Yes. I love that design, by the way, and the fact that it was live streamed, you know. And the fact that there is an article about it, like, I think this is
full package.
Very good
Well
execution.
done, Ansar of Thailand. You did a great job. But you know, Kevin, they did it like that because they were doing it together.
Exactly.
And this is so important to highlight. Anyone out there who's a believer, if you're in a country where there are other believers like yourselves, then meet up. Gather together, join forces, organize with one another, try and see how connected you can be. Community is extremely important.
Yes.
Very, very important. It's part of every true messenger's creed, that the people who believe, they take care of one another and they have that community sense. And without that, it's very difficult to actually achieve anything. But with it, not only are you able to do it on a human level, but God himself enforces you because of how much he loves that connection.
And you have to ponder also the fact that, as the article points out, it is a cross-generational thing.
Yeah.
Which means what? Which means that this message is able to close the gaps that society makes to keep people separated. Nowadays, normally you don't see people like 74-year-old engaging, in activities with a 23-year-old person.
Very good point.
Right? So you have to ponder how this dawah is able to make people from different age groups just come together and work together hand in hand for a common cause. And exactly. And this is what I wanted to take it. You have to ponder also this community, and you can watch now the documentary of the 10-year anniversary to see how the community is. And it is an example, and I love when Aba Al-Sadiq pointed this out in his last video. It is an example that people from different places, different parts of the world, different languages, different backgrounds, different everything.
Social classes.
Everything, exactly. They can come together and join forces hand in hand to love each other and to work for a common cause. And this is an excellent example. This community is an excellent example, and the people who are organizing themselves outside of the community are an excellent example of how a message of truth, like the message of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, is able to unite humanity for good. You know, just as in the past they were uniting themselves to disobey
evil.
God,
Yes.
now we are showing the world that we can unite for a good cause and to obey God and to apply His teachings. So no wonder God is lifting some bans that He had
Yes.
put in place before, especially for us, this community, for example. Everybody's learning the same language,
That's
so
right.
everybody can communicate no matter where they come from, right? And the power that He is giving us to spread this message all across the globe, it is actually God
Enforcing it.
enforcing and showing you that these handicaps that we had before don't necessarily have to be all the time. He just wanted to teach us a lesson. You learn the lesson, for sure He's going to let you free. For
Yes.
sure. Absolutely.
And He's a very merciful God. He has a
Yeah.
reason for what He does. This community sense is so critical to the establishing of a cause and the establishing of a mindset. Because when like-minded people get together for a good reason, then only goodness can come from it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen in my life any place or any people that are as diverse or as, I should say, connected despite their diversity,
Yeah.
as I've seen in this community or in the global community of the riser Aba Al-Sadiq. It is so incredible and so it's so enlightening to see that, because as you're growing up, and I remember this, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Kevin, you see around you in the world, you see this as we've said before, this division that's created by different financial capabilities or different social classes or different education levels, or the most ridiculous of things like race or tribe.
Yes.
Or bloodline. These things can create classes and groups and sects in society. And the fascinating thing is that as a child, you know it's wrong. You know that this isn't good. You don't like seeing that there's this rich person and there's this poor servant who has to serve them, or there's someone who's very educated and they're a PhD and they're a professor, and then there's this child on the street who's not able to even go to school because their parents can't afford it. You don't want to see that. You know that there's something very corrupt about what you're looking at. And then you wish that it would be different. And as it should be, when the Qaim of the family of Muhammad appeared and he was there at the forefront, he opened his doors and said, we're not going to allow that to be the case. And he created a space where it was abolished.
Alhamdulillah.
That horrible experience of seeing that apparently inevitable division is no longer there, because he just ripped it out from the roots and said, why? Why should people be divided on these bases? And he said, actually, there should never be inequality or inequity. People should have the same things. People should have what they need and according to their needs. And he established it, and he was successful in doing so. And we have this ever-expanding community where that's all we see. You go out and you meet your brothers and sisters here in this very community, and you see people who speak a different language, who look different, who sound different. Even if they speak English,
Yes.
their accent is different to yours.
Yes.
And they're dressed a bit different, or they're eating food that's a bit different from yours. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't feel like that at all. You honestly feel like you're meeting your sibling
Family member,
that you
yeah.
lived with all
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Even
incredible.
closer than your own,
Even
blood family.
closer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And
beautiful.
this is a proof that God will enforce.
Yeah.
Because He wants this to happen. So of course He's going to remove every single constraint that we have, and make our hearts come together. Because this is what He wants. So of course He knows that we need, I think before, when I came and you interviewed me at some point, I mentioned that when I was learning about the message of Jesus, I was reading this the impact of the new commandment that Jesus gave. This new commandment where he says, I give you a new commandment that you love each other just as I love just like I love you. So when Christians back in the day knew about this, and it's not only in isolation, but it was the community culture that was developed around Christianity back in the day. They, for example, abolished slavery. Because you cannot love your slaves. It's not love. If you have somebody in slavery, you're not loving him, because if you love somebody, you desire for them
self-evident,
better than what you have, right? So of course you cannot have them. So they Christians basically freed slaves, and they integrated them to their communities and made them brothers. So. You come to realize that this idea of loving one another is an idea that is absolutely one of the most revolutionary, groundbreaking things that you can,
and it's not easy.
You can practice. It's not easy.
It is not easy.
No.
You cannot love truly the way God expects you to, especially in a community, unless you eradicate that ego and you put it down and you put yourself last. And this is what Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, from him his peace, has said so many times. And Aba Al-Sadiq has placed it into this community, that teaching, and put it into action, that you cannot survive as a true believer unless you put yourself last and put your brother and sister first.
But you know, Alia, it is not easy, but it is the easiest way. Because when you do that, everything else flows so easily.
It falls into place. Everything falls into place.
Well, if you choose the path of not doing that effort, everything becomes ugly and everything becomes bad. So on the mid to long term, making that effort of killing, annihilating your own existence and just serving others, it is the easiest. It is the easiest thing that you can do, and of course, like, it's not the easiest thing
if you want to do,
but it's the easiest thing all around. So you have to ponder also the fact.
Me actually what Aba Al-Sadiq said about that once. I was asking him once about the fact that there are these trials and tribulations that come in the path of a believer, and the fact that you have to be brave when you face them, or you have to have patience. And this was in the very beginning of the Black Banners being raised, and we were talking about the journey ahead, and who would have thought it would turn out this way. But back then, 10 years ago, so we were talking about this, and I asked him, I said, how do we do it? What do we do? Basically, I was saying to him, can you give us something to hold on to do it, to be able to go ahead? And he said, it is the hardest thing to do, and it's also the easiest thing to do. It just depends on how you see it. It depends on which part of you is on the path and which part of you is conscious. Which part are you giving power to? Are you giving power to the part of you that wants to be selfish and wants to hold on to its desires? Well, then it will be the hardest thing ever to be on this path and to go on the journey. Or are you giving power to that part of you that is the light, the part of you that's aware of the super soul, the part of you that is yearning for God no matter what? If you are going to give power to that component of your being, then it is the easiest thing to do. It just depends on that.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear.
I hope the people in their houses like ponder about this and realize that God is showing us the easiest path available. Any other thing, it may seem easier.
It seems easier, or seems more appealing.
It's not going to be
to the ego, but
it's more appealing. Exactly,
but it will never be enough. It's like that endless chasm that you constantly keep trying to fill, and you will never be satisfied anyway. And speaking of community, by the way, speaking of how to create that space that God expects us to create, where we can be true human beings for Him, the Mahdi's Manifesto, Chapter 3. Is an incredible piece of writing that goes right into the heart of the matter. And coming up is a segment regarding that chapter and the teachings from it. So let's go ahead and watch that together so we can just discuss it back here on Rise Up.
Imagine a world where believers are more than just members of a faith. They are members of one family. A world where community is not just a concept, but a living, breathing reality. This is the vision of the true nation of God, the chosen people who hold fast to His covenant when others have broken theirs. This is the reality we are called to forge. The Quran tells us, the believers are but siblings. But what does it truly mean to be siblings in faith? What does it mean to be chosen people of God? Throughout history, the divine covenant was given and then broken. The Jews, Christians, the Muslims each strayed from the original agreement with God. But the chosen people of God are not determined by lineage or labels. They are determined by their adherence to the covenant. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his holy family said, I am the servant of God. My name is Ahmad, and I am the servant of God. My name is Israel. So whatever he commanded him, he commanded me. And whatever he meant for Israel, he meant for me. Aba Al-Sadiq, peace be upon him, clarified that when the Quran addresses the children of Israel, it refers specifically to the family of Muhammad, the inheritance of the promised land, the gathering of the lost tribes, the divine blessings that were spoken of in the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. They are not for a specific ethnicity or nation, but for those who truly follow the successors of Muhammad, peace be upon them all. This prophecy is unfolding. The tribes of Israel, the true followers of Muhammad's family, are gathering. The narrations speak of a day when the Qa'im will establish himself and God will bring together believers from the east and the west. When our Qa'im will establish himself, Allah will gather the people of the east and the west. These people will come together in one place in the same manner as the leaves gather in one place in autumn. This is not just a prophecy. This is a call to action. Every divine movement has required patience. Noah preached for 950 years before the flood came. Moses appeared before his people at the age of 40 and led them out of Egypt at the age of 80. The call of the Qa'im is no different. It requires absolute dedication, sacrifice, and unwavering belief. Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, the Yemeni, said, I do not want anyone who gets tired or gets bored. Work and work and work until your breath is cut out. In order to pass this, one needs patience, and then patience, and then patience, and then submission. The divine just state cannot be built overnight, nor can it be established without first embodied by the believers. Justice must first exist in the hearts and actions of the community before it can manifest as a physical state. The Quran says, You are the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong and believe in Allah. This means that the community must live by the divine rules, embody the values of the prophets, and become an example to all nations. Our mission is not merely survival, it is transformation. The community of believers should be so exemplary that the world looks at us with admiration. When people see our unity, our justice, and our faith, they will long to be part of it. This is how the divine just state will manifest, not through force, but through attraction. As the soul comes before the body, so too must the spiritual state come before the physical state. But such a nation requires sacrifice. The believers must be willing to give everything for this cause, just as Jesus, peace be upon him, told his followers. If you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. This means that those who travel to the Qa'im, from whom is peace, must be prepared to serve the community with all that they have. They will need builders to build, doctors to heal, teachers to educate, cooks to feed, drivers to transport. Every function of a real state must be fulfilled by believers, and no one will be left behind. In this community, no one will be judged by wealth, but by their service to God and their fellow believers. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his holy family said, Creation is the children of God. The best of you is the best to the children of God. This is not just a religious duty, It is a family commitment. The believers are siblings in faith. They inherit from one another, not from their biological families. They sacrifice for each other, love one another, and accept judgment of their leader without hesitation. Imagine a beehive, each bee working in harmony for the survival of the whole. No one bee works for itself alone. This is how the community must function. The Prophet's early followers found refuge in Ethiopia, where a Christian king allowed them to practice their faith freely. In the same way, the community today must be showing gratitude to those who offer them sanctuary while continuing to build towards the divine just state. So I ask you today, what are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? Are you ready to dedicate your life, your efforts, and your resources to this cause? Are you ready to join the great gathering to help forge the true nation of God? This is not a dream. This is the reality we are called to build, and it begins with us.
That was a really incredible segment by our dear sister Myra, very touching, and actually it is extremely true what she's saying. It's not just a dream out there, it's actually something that we are required to create. It is a call to action, it is a duty, a responsibility on the shoulders of anyone who believes in the ideal of humanity first before everything else. If you're someone who holds that as your creed, as we do, then you are required to build that space where we can actually have community, where we can have people who believe in God and worship Him without fear, who can create that state of Adam that opposes the state of Iblis. Because God says that it is one of two. Either you are serving the devil and his devilish ideas, or you're serving God. And to serve God means to live in a godly manner. That means that you cannot live in a society that pushes you towards satanic ideas, that pushes you towards disconnecting from other human beings. And you might think when I say satanic ideas that I'm talking about something like eating pork. I'm talking about, which is also not something we do, right? But I'm not talking about something as simple as a dietary requirement or a part of jurisprudence, which is what people immediately think of. I'm talking about a satanic idea that you're passing by on the street, a child that is begging, and you just walk past and you don't have any care in the world for this little child of God that's sitting there with no one to take care of them. This is the reality of the world we're living in right now. And this symbolism of the child on the street needing help is what God Himself uses. In that very incredible Hadith al-Qudsi, where God says that when man will come to Him on the day of judgment, God will say, you did not feed me, you did not clothe me, you did not shelter me. And He's not talking about Himself. He's talking about the vulnerable that we saw around us. That is satanic. That is what is from the devil. To not care about one another and not love one another.
That's and I mean, no amount of abstaining from pork will fix that thing.
There are rulings, there are jurisprudence, there is right and wrong, there are ways of living that are right and ways of living that are wrong, but morality and ethics come before all of that.
Yeah,
humanity comes before religion.
Absolutely. And it is. This is the basic message of the religions. Like, why are you talking about dressing in a certain way, having a beard in a certain way? Like, all this stuff is, if you compare that to the people who are dying on the streets because they don't have shelter and because they don't have food and because they are just in a constant state of suffering, of course, this outweighs any single of the apparent acts and parts of the religion.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And all the prophets and the messengers would agree in that.
Yes.
No shadow of a doubt. If Prophet Muhammad was here, he would not be taking care of beards more than he's taking care of children who are starving. Absolutely. So this is what we have to come back to, and for all the people who never watched us before, this is what we call people to. This is one of our mottos: humanity before religion. You help others, no matter what the religious background is. You don't care about that. That is something Imam Ahmad al-Hasan said. This is something that will be accounted for in a different way. In the eyes of God, what matters is that there is a child who is starving. This is what matters to God. He doesn't care what religion he is, no matter if he's an adult, no matter what. What matters is that we have to fix the state of the world. And this is what we're calling to. The divine just state is a reality that we are going to manifest through establishing it between one another first, but it's going to become a reality that will manifest as a physical state with physical boundaries and in a physical place. And in this place, in this divine just state, once it's established, the same thing that is happening right now on this divine community that we have, which is that it's going to happen in a nationwide scale, which is that there is not going to be people who are starving. There is not going to be people who don't have shelter. There's not going to be people who are in need and are unable to attain what they need to fulfill their needs. Everybody will be taken care of. Everybody will enjoy the possibility and to have a dignified life and to be able to spend their time getting closer to God, and they're going to be able to have a job that will honor them because they are serving humanity, and instead of just having to have to do jobs that they don't like, for example, just because they need to run just to be able to feed their families. This is not what God wants. This is not what's going to happen in the divine just state. In the divine just state, the rights of every single person, every single human being, and not only human beings, but Imam Ali said at some point, right, when they brought the zakat and they found nobody to give it to, he said, go and throw it to the mountains, because so nobody can say that in the state of Allah, in the state of Muhammad, the birds are hungry. So every single creature will be taken care of, because there is people who are passionate about every single aspect of life. So what does God want? God wants to give them the basic needs, all the necessities to have a dignified life, so they can take care of the stuff that matters. They can work every day to make the world a better place.
Exactly. That's all that it is. It all entails making the world a better place. And people have their own ideas on how to do that. And while they might be good ideas to some extent, they might help to some degree, they will not have that full effect, because treating the symptom will not treat the disease.
Yeah.
And treating the disease essentially means that we have to get to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is, as a people, we require God's enforcement, we require His blessing to be able to prosper and to be able to have that shelter, have that nourishment, have that sustenance that we need on this earth that He has created us to be on. Now, for God to enforce us, we must do what He wills us to do. We must commit to His will rather than our own in order to live in His kingdom, which is why it says, Thy will be done, Thy kingdom come. So we know that for His kingdom to be a reality, we have to establish His will. And what is His will? His will is very simple. His will is that we live in harmony amongst each other, but we cannot do that without guidance. So automatically now the space is created for the need of a leader, of a guide. And who will that guide be? Are we going to choose who it is? Because we haven't done a very good job so far choosing our own guides. The best of guides is those who is coming directly from the source, the man that God Himself sends forward, so that we can listen to him, learn from him, and understand how to be a true human family. I can speak on my own behalf, and I'm sure everyone out there who has been through this experience with me in this community will agree. We never lived like this until we met Aba Al-Sadiq. We didn't know how to live selflessly. I had no idea that this was possible. I wanted it to be possible. I wished for it to be possible, but I didn't know that it was possible.
Yeah. Or how to get to that level. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you find that there's this leadership under Aba Al-Sadiq where he's taking care of it for you. He's saying, don't worry, I'm going to make it possible, where you don't have to feel like you need to earn the bread on your plate. You deserve to have the God-given right to eat, because you are a creation that exists that needs to eat.
Exactly.
And that's how it's supposed to be. How do you earn the right to live? It doesn't work like that.
Why? Like,
it wouldn't make sense.
That's a satanic, very satanic idea.
It's a very strange idea. It's like imagine you have your own child, and you tell your child, look, because I've created you, now you need to do something so that I can feed you, because why should I just feed you? What do I get for that?
Yeah.
That is not the way
What
of
did
God.
you do today to earn your plate?
How strange would that be? Can you imagine your parents telling you that? I would be very taken aback. But yeah, toxic household.
Yes.
So on a wide scale, it's becoming a toxic world, because that's the same mentality.
Because this is the mentality that we are accepting. We don't accept that for children. But we accept to treat each other as adults like that.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
But then that's the thing. Why would we accept that, like you said, and then you move forward and you find that this whole world is living on this idea that if you don't present this mindset, people won't work. And
the reason, and the reason is not that there is not enough food for everyone, so everybody must deserve their food. No, there is enough for everyone.
There is enough for everyone.
Yeah, there is enough food to the point that half of the food production every year is thrown to the trash.
You know, that's a horrible, horrible reality.
There is enough.
Horrible reality.
There is enough for the people, for everyone. But there is people on the top of the societies that
the powers that be.
Yes, that they are so keen on hoarding as much as they can that they are hiding these resources, so that you have to compete and you have to fight for just the crumbles that fall off their tables. So this is the reason. Right? So in a just world, in a just state, in a divine just state, this would never happen, because we would never allow somebody to hoard so much that is hurting somebody else.
It would never happen.
It doesn't make sense. Our motto, one of our mottos is, take what you need and let the blessings flow. Right?
Exactly.
So this is what we live by.
But
we
you
only
also
take
said
what
something.
we need.
You said something very important earlier. You said that people would work in a divine just state, in a kingdom of God. They would work not just to put bread on the table, but because it is in service of humanity, and that gives them the dignity that they deserve as people. So when you serve people, you have that dignity, you have that blessing on you.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, that I've read many articles and studies that have been made about why people from our generation, millennials and Gen Z, right now, they are not very satisfied with their jobs worldwide. And one of the main things that keeps popping up is that they feel that there is no meaning in what they're doing.
Can you imagine, day after day, everything you're doing is just to do it, to get it done, so that finally you might have that chance to have something meaningful, an hour in the day or a vacation time.
Imagine just running to get bread. Like, imagine just working and working and working just to get the basic needs. No, and even the animals don't do that, because if an animal is hungry, they don't work 8 hours a day to get their food.
They go
get their food, and that's it, and keep going. So even the animals are not doing it. Yes, exactly. Wow. They are not doing this.
You know, that's just very horrifying. Just hearing it like that.
Yeah,
it's very scary.
So in exchange for that, like, nowadays people are having like this state of being in which they are doing this particular job all day, and they don't feel fulfilled by it, and they hate their jobs and they hate their lives because they find no meaning in them. In exchange, in an divine just state, what would happen is that you would not have to run 8 hours a day just to get the basic necessities. The basic necessities are your rights, and they're going to be guaranteed to you just because you exist, because God created you. He is responsible over your necessities, so you can have a job that is actually meaningful for you,
and that you're good at, and that gives you joy to do.
Exactly.
Even if it's something as simple as the job of an electrician, or being a dentist, or sewing clothes. If that's what you like and you're good at it, and you're feeling fulfilled because by doing it you're making others happy,
exactly,
then you would be happy all the time. How could you not have joy? And you know, Kevin, maybe people are hearing that and saying to themselves, that's idealistic. Perhaps we should clarify, this is what we do every day.
This is what we do.
Isn't that what we live by?
Yes,
Isn't that how we live?
This is how we live. This is possible. But you need, as you said, you need to find a guide. You need to find the person that a true leader that will take you there, and you have to as the manifesto says, you have to make a covenant with God.
Yes,
you have to commit to it, and you have to develop, as Sister Myra was saying, a divine culture that you have to make it your day-to-day life. And if you manage to get these three things, the true leader, and we are telling you God has a method for you to truly understand who is the leader that He wants you to follow, and you can go and read the Mahdi's Manifesto and read the proofs that somebody is a true messenger sent by God. If you find the leader, if you enter into a covenant with God and agree that the religion is whatever God tells you that the religion is, and that religion has to be updated because the world gets updated, and we are not living in the...
We are getting updated.
Exactly. So you have to enter into an agreement with God that is... how do you say it in English? It's standing in your day and age, something that is valid,
is appropriate for the day
exactly,
and age. Yes.
Exactly. And third, you have to and have the divine community, divine culture, and you basically, these are the three keys for you to have a fulfilling life. And this is what we're offering you. This is why we're here. We are here to tell you, hey, we can apply this on a big scale.
You could be part of that. You could be part of this community that is applying God's true teachings and actually is able to truly worship God, because we have the ability, we have the peace of mind, we have the time, we have the resources, we have that ability and the guidance to go forward and get more enlightened and elevate further and so on and so forth. But it requires dedication. It requires identifying the Imam of the time. It requires being absolutely selfless, taking away that ego, putting it last and saying, I'm ready for whatever it is that God expects from me. And going forward, knowing that you can trust Him. He will always take care of you and always make sure that you're okay if you trust Him. And this is not a small matter for anyone out there who is wanting to do this. This is quite a heavy matter. The narrations describe it as a heavy matter. One of the reasons it's heavy is because it's not mainstream. People are comfortable and comforted by the idea of everyone is doing it, so if I do it, it'll be okay. You're not going to find that everyone is doing it. We are a community that exists and that is expanding and growing in number, but it is not a mainstream institution of Islam or a mainstream institution of Christianity or any other religion. It is the call of Imam al-Mahdi. It is basically that spark of light in a vast sea of darkness that the world knew would come. But it's only that spark in a vast sea. So if you are lost in that sea and you want to remain lost in the darkness, then you will, unless you're looking for the spark, unless you're swimming towards it and you're pushing yourself towards it and you're making the effort towards it. Making an effort isn't just a physical matter. It's also mentally an effort. It's emotionally an effort. It's spiritually an effort. You have to push yourself in every way possible to find the truth and then to stick by it. So we're calling you to this incredible kingdom, the doors of which are open to one and all, this ark of salvation towards a God who knows you and who put your name on a chair here saying, I'm waiting for this person. Whoever you might be, whatever your name might be, know that there is a God who said, whatever your name is, I'm waiting for them. And it's all in your hands. If you want to comply and make your destiny and push yourself towards that beautiful reality, or you want to wait and hesitate and worry and question and doubt, and know that we're here to help. We are actually very, very happy to help. We have a phone number on the screen. We have an email address on our website. We're constantly receiving interaction from people outside who want to know how to be a part of this beautiful reality, how they can support it, how they can put everything into it. We're excited about that. We're happy that our global family is growing and you could be part of it. So our hands are extended to you in that.